I've been taking Chinese lessons for 3 weeks. I was working on some Chinese on a app on my phone for a few months before that, but this is the first time I've really gotten started doing with other people. I did it because I want to do missions work, and I feel like God is possibly calling me to China to serve him there, and I'm not quite sure what that will look like, but right now I'm working on my pre-med schooling so that I can become a doctor one day.
Okay.
So learning Chinese is a little bit overwhelming, but I enjoy it. It's so different than English, especially with the sounds and the pronunciation. That two words, they sound pretty much the same to me, but they seem pretty distinct to people who are familiar with Chinese. And I'm excited to see what I learned this year, and I hope that I become more just accustomed to Chinese and able to read it, especially the scriptures, so that I would be able to share that with people someday.
Yeah. So why scripture focused? 他说他想要用中文学圣经，我很惊讶，这个 it's an ambitious goal. So why?
Scripture is very important to me. I believe that God speaks to people through his word, and so his word is very, very powerful, and it's changed my life a lot, and reading it the past few years has really helped change my view of God, helped me realize how important his word is in my daily life and how it affects my decisions, how I view life. It gives me hope, it gives me joy, and I can say whatever I want about God, but it doesn't really matter, because it only matters how he reveals himself, and there's a lot of people who would twist the scriptures or try to use it to create their own message, but scripture is super important to the Christian faith, and yeah.
Okay, then how did you join the WeChat ministry, and why?
I joined the WeChat ministry so that I could work on my Chinese pronunciation and become familiar with scripture by reading some every day. And I joined it because Sharon, my teacher for Chinese, offered to let me join, and I thought it was a good opportunity for me to be accountable and be able to practice it in Chinese. Because, I'm not used to doing Chinese. It's a lot more work than doing it in English. And I hope it will help me grow and even be able to see scripture from a different language, which is just see it how they read it, because it means the same thing, but it's always different reading it. It's kind of like reading it from a different version in English. You're like, oh, that kind of wording makes it other stuff stick out more, but in a whole other language. So yeah.
So you have been joined 3 days, 4 days?
I started, I guess 4 days. So I just did Thursday and Friday of this week, and then yesterday I worked on some scripture on my own. I didn't end up posting it because it's the weekend.
Yeah.
So hope I can keep that up.
Okay, great. Keep going. All right. Okay, thank you. Teaching method.
Yeah, the echo method is one that I heard from a video, and essentially it helps you learn a new language or really memorize anything, and it's focusing on active listening. So rather than you hear something you want to memorize, or you hear a word in another language, and you just let it sit in your brain for a little bit, and then you respond to it after, instead of just responding right away. And that allows you to process it more and keep it in your mind. Because if I just say hi, or something, it's just it goes in one ear out the other, versus you really think about it and then you say it. So that shows it went in your mind, and then it comes out first.
Yeah.
And I think it's very practical, especially for learning Chinese, where every sound is so important, because you're Jin, Jin, Jin.
Yeah.
Jin.
Yeah. Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So the way So the way it's practical for using the WeChat. Talk about that.
Yeah, for the WeChat, I can get, like if I'm working on something in Chinese, whether it's just some words or scripture, they're broken up into little parts. And so I can copy and paste one of those words into an app or onto Google search, and I can just listen to that individually in my mind, and then I say that out loud after I listen to it. And so it can help me break down the structures of the sentences and stuff.
So how long do you usually spend to work on one scripture? How long it will take you?
It usually takes me a while because I really want to focus on the sound, so I usually spend like 30 minutes or sometimes more, and sometimes I get distracted working on other Chinese parts, so because there's just so much. I'm like, wait, this kind of reminds me of different stuff, or just comparing the sounds. So it can take me 30 minutes or longer, but part of that's because like I get the sound of one word and I move on and I forget the first one by the time. It's like, what was it? It was like,
真理.
Yeah, it's definitely a process of just like changing my mind and brain to get used to the sounds. So even if I can't remember them now, I'm hoping that it will work in the long run.
Yeah.